My sister, F36, and I, F35, signed a 3-year lease. He got pregnant 3 months in. How do I tell her I need to move out? I, F35, moved across the country, Canada, with my son M14, and my dog to start new. I asked my sister F36 to join me in the city. She lived in a small town 2 hours south from where we live now. I accepted a job offer, as did my sister, and we signed a 3-year fixed rental agreement in a 3-bedroom house. My sister and I are very different people. We have a complicated but supportive relationship. We have a lot of love and respect for one another. We also have some on and off codependency issues from our childhood. Things were going well for the first few months. We were transitioning into this dynamic and it wasn't always easy, but we found systems and ways to make it work. Everything changed 3 months ago. My sister met a man and conceived on her first date. The baby is due in April. It's a welcome surprise. My sister is experiencing a difficult start to her pregnancy. Insomnia, stress, thyroid issues. We have not been getting along. My son and I can do nothing right. It's the little things compounded. My sister is also quite entitled, openly expresses and reinforces this attribute with humor. In her pregnancy it's been worse. There's little to no consideration. For example, she's struggling with the sound in the house. She leaves her door open for her cat and refuses to wear earplugs. Instead, she demands for my son and I to vacate the living room and kitchen at 8 p.m. because she can hear us. I don't get home until 7 p.m. and need to make dinner. Another example is that I had been giving her upwards of $600 per month in groceries. I have a lot of allergies and she wouldn't accommodate these allergies, so I would often need to eat alone and buy additional groceries. It hurt me to learn that she had her groceries supplemented by the father of her unborn child, meaning that she had been asking for money for groceries that were already paid for. My salary is less than my sister's and I have a dependent. She decided that the child's father, M36, would move into this house with his dog and his cat, and sleep in the foyer at the top of the stairs without consulting with myself or my son. This area of the house is not closed in. It's positioned above the living room kitchen, an area that my sister has already deemed inaccessible between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m., and also between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. My son and I are starting to get forced into our bedrooms off the entry hallway. They split up 2 weeks ago and he's still moving in. He's a bit of a dirty guy and my sister is type A. To put things into perspective, she has cleaned out his house and his 2 storage units in the last 3 months. He's not much of a cook or cleaner. She said that I'm lucky because I get to benefit financially from this. I'll pay less in rent and I don't even deserve it. Those were her actual words. I actually like the guy. I don't like the way my sister treats him, but he's a nice guy. I moved for a lot of reasons. My son was experiencing anxiety and self-esteem issues around his father, never married, separated after birth of our son, in and out of the picture, who had drained our collective savings account for the kids' education because of addiction. I wasn't able to secure a suitable salary with my education to get ahead. To be fully honest here, my sister and I had a hard upbringing. The only reason I stayed in our hometown was so that my son had access to his father. And well, a time came where his father's absence would be more beneficial than his presence. I moved so that we could start a new life and have peace. We are not experiencing peace. I confronted my sister about the use of communal spaces, and that she would have to find solutions to limit the way sound affected her. I confronted my sister about shared bills and asked her to post the bills on the fridge, and that we would no longer be splitting most groceries. I confronted my sister that I'm not entirely comfortable with someone moving in here. It's not within the rights of our lease and we would need to communicate this with the landlord and ask to break the lease. My sister's response to everything has been emotional, reluctant, and avoidant. She simply cries, yells, and walks away. She claims that I am abandoning her. I feel exhausted, exploited, and manipulated. It's affecting my work, my personal life, and my ability to enjoy life. My son is experiencing some anxiety too. He has sports and extracurricular activities most days after school, and I am adamant to discuss adult things without my son there. However, he has witnessed some arguments and knows that we are not getting along. I want to leave this situation. I know I have to. I feel like I am abandoning her. Not just because she tells me so, but because everything is crazy and I want to leave. I didn't sign up for this. I don't agree to live with my sister, her estranged ex-BF of 3 months, and his 2 pets. I don't know where to start and how to do this. I know I need a couple months to save up for the first and last. Comments. Have the guy take over your lease and leave before the real madness starts. OP. I think this is the best route. I had originally pitched this idea and my sister had said he wouldn't move in. A month passed and she decided he would move in. I originally said that I would stick it out until June, marking 1 year on our lease, but I just can't stick it out that long. My work and mental state are suffering too much. Edit. In all fairness, I have been fickle agreeing to this arrangement and disagreeing with the arrangement of the father to be moving in. It's difficult to think about my son or myself when I can clearly see my sister is in so much distress. Despite all the comments here about her being awful, she's still my sister and I love her. I will continue to support her, but on my terms. Her feeling abandoned is valid to her because that's how she feels and she's afraid. It's not as easy as walking away. I want our relationship to get better, not worse. Comment. You are worried about your sister's mental health, but she is not showing any reciprocity. You need to take care of you and your son, who has already been through a lot. Go forth to a new place and be happy, but do not pack any regret with you. It changes nothing and only brings non-peace. You deserve to put yourself and your son first. You can do this. Give yourself a hug for doing the right thing. Comment. Leave before her newborn arrives and her entitled ass expects you to get up at night and do a lot for her baby. Do not fall for her guilt-tripping and abandoning bullshit. She's a 36-year-old woman who got knocked up on a nightstand, so she needs to sort her own life out. She is inconsiderate, selfish, and has no respect for you and your son. She has also been taking advantage of you regarding grocery money, so you need to put you and your son first and get the hell out of there. She will try and extort money out of you for the baby, and do not fall for that. Remember, her baby has a present father and yours doesn't, plus she makes more than you. Set hard boundaries and show that she can't walk all over you anymore. Comment. You never agreed to live with someone who treats you like shit. She has zero respect or regard for your needs or your son's needs. She is choosing to ignore your feelings at every turn. As soon as you possibly can, give her 30 days notice that you and your son are leaving. In the meantime, do what's best for you and your son, not necessarily what she has decided she wants you to do, such as changing your habits and staying out of common spaces. Update 2 months later. My sister found the post. She and her ex totally berated me in a government building conference room after hours. When I was adamant about moving out, things got substantially worse. My sister decided he would not move in and we would both move out. I notified the landlord to give him 60 days notice. I found a place for myself and my son. It's within my budget and absolutely perfect. With an exit in sight, things were starting to become tolerable. Come mid-November, there was still the issue of shared assets, so I braced the difficult conversation with my sister via text, requesting to set a date and time to discuss things. Her actual reply was, "Suck my dick, I'm blocking you." I remember being shocked. This was actually out of character. My son and I got in late that night to find that the internet password had been changed, with a message on the chalkboard that as soon as I dropped the topic of shared assets and prepay the upcoming electric bill, she would not reveal the Wi-Fi password. We live in an area without cell coverage, so I couldn't even message my sister to call her out. I'm not proud, but I went to the garage and unplugged the router and locked it in my truck. When she came to me, she was furious. I can hardly remember what she said now. What I can say is that she was very cruel and near violent. In that verbal vomit she said, "You have no idea what I've been through, I miscarried." At that point I asked her to give me a few minutes to process. I left shortly after with my son and my dog, leaving the router on the porch. I'm embarrassed to say that I offered to stay the night and keep her company. I realize now that in order to support someone we have to ask ourselves if this is safe, if we have the capacity to offer support, and if this person has the capacity to accept support. She halfway apologized a couple days later. After that she grieved independently and almost silently. My son and I grieved independently from her, being careful to follow her direction and boundaries of not talking about it. Weeks felt like months. The house was cold. Any level of contact or coordination was the beginning of a fight. In therapy I started to unpack the events over the last year. I learned a great deal about myself, mostly in regards to my self-integrity. I've come to understand my role in perpetuating her controlling behaviors, my lack of self-esteem which snowballed under our shared roof, leaving me in a state of ambivalence and complacency. I recognized the ways in which my sister held little to no regard to my autonomy, often using emotional manipulation to force my submission. I know this is